No stomping on my glass table, please. Is it pretty?
No.
No, fair enough. My lack of gum boots. Oh. Love that. Hi crafty people! Today I'm showing you how I made these water repellent pants for my kids. We've used these so far to go puddle jumping and to go on playgrounds when they're a little bit wet but you still want to go down the slide. And the first time we used these was actually when we went for a little bit of a walk near Morialta waterfall. Just started our hike. There's a koala. And they've got a nice creek there that the kids wanted to splash in. We really gave these water resistant pants a test. Now I say water resistant because they certainly weren't waterproof. I'll show you some of the pictures and videos from the day that we went to Morialta and you'll see that they really were pretty deep in the creek of getting these pants really soaking wet. I've made these pants out of soft shell fleece, which is water repellent, and it didn't quite repel an entire creek, but they were still a benefit to have there because they did get slightly less wet than if they weren't wearing them. In the video that you're seeing of my kids using these pants, you'll see that Isabel and Elijah both have straps with snaps on the top, and that is the more finished version. For the ones that Alice is wearing though, just to make it a bit quicker, I just sewed some pieces of ribbon on the top and tied it together for hers, just as a temporary measure. This is Alice's pair of pants now that I have finished them. So I undid the ribbon, I've put on her straps, and I actually added in this stirrup at the bottom as well to keep it on her feet. If this is your first time on my channel, then welcome. My name is Marie and I'm a mum to 4 kids who I love to sew various projects for. And I have this YouTube channel so that I can share my sewing projects with you and hopefully inspire you to make some of them too. These splash pants have been a lot of fun for us over the winter season, and I hope that if you are going to make some splash pants for your family as well, that you have just as much fun in the ones that you make as well. So with all of that being said, let's get making.
My mum makes splash pants.
I started by tracing out a template of what I wanted the top part of these overalls to look like. To do that, I put a piece of paper against Alice's chest and I just traced out where I wanted the armholes to go and recorded how wide across her chest was for the straps. Next, I measured how tall I wanted the overalls to be by measuring between her legs and up to where I wanted it to fit on her chest. Lastly, I measured around the widest part of her body, which was around her cloth nappy, and I used that as the width of the overalls because there's no stretch in the material, so it needs to be able to pull over the widest part of her body. Now to transfer those measurements onto our actual pattern piece. I cut out my top bodice piece and I just checked the chest size was correct, and then I was ready to start piecing that together with a pair of pants that I know fit Alice well.
So she puts the pants on like that and the top on like this because this is the chest. So if we're wanting this side seam to be on the fold, so we don't have to sew the side seam, then we want this to be on the fold. So we're going to fold both of them over like this. There we go. And we are going to add some width to it because it's not a stretchy fabric. So what did we say? I'm going to center this piece between where I want to cut and the edge so that the armhole's in the middle. And with this one, I want the crotch seam right on the edge and I want to extend the width of it in this side seam here. And how long do I want them? The most important measurement is the measurement from the chest all the way to between the legs. So that is from this point here all the way to here. And for Alice, that was 38 centimeters. So I'm going to measure that out to make sure that that is at least 38 centimeters. So it was 46, so a bit big. So these would end up being too tall on her between her legs, and up here it'd be up around her neck. So I need to shorten that bit here. I've made sure to add some extra on the hem just in case I've made it too short. I'm going to cut along here, having extended the width of the pants to make sure that they fit over her because it's not stretchy. And I've worked out how big to make it from the chest to the inseam here so that I can make sure it fits her in her body height. So now I'm going to cut around it, leaving a bit of seam allowance where necessary, and then I'm going to cut that same pattern piece a second time. So I've cut my pattern piece out twice, and these will be both of the legs, so they will be separate. And we're going to sew this seam here together, the crotch seam technically, all the way up to the chest. And that here will be what goes up their body. So with our pieces flat on top of each other, that means sewing down this part here and this part here.
Make sure to use wonder clips instead of pins when you're using this type of fabric so that you're not puncturing it and causing it to be less waterproof. And I'm just using a straight stitch on my sewing machine to sew it together.
The next thing we need to do is sew the two leg seams together. So I'm going to turn them out right sides together. And now I'm going to sew the leg seam. So starting from one leg and sewing up to the crotch seam and all the way back down the other leg.
I match up the seams that I've already created and clip them together using my wonder clips and clip at various other points down the leg seam as well, ready for me to sew together.
Is that pencil done?
Well, sort of.
Good job, Mum.
Thanks, hun.
As a quick way to make these overalls wearable, I sewed 2 ribbons to the front of the overalls and 2 on the back so that I could tie them together over her shoulders so that she was able to wear them when we were out on our adventure.
I'm just watching for a bit. Wow, exciting!
Oops, we've had a fall. Ali tipped over.
Had a casualty.
And we're back. And the next step is for us to hem the bottom of her pants. So I've got Alice wearing the pants and the boots she wears with them so I can mark how long the hem needs to be. And then at the top I'm just making a few adjustments to the neckline and under her arms. I'm putting elastic in the hem of these pants because the elastic will help to draw the bottom of her pants around her boot so that it will prevent the water from going in her pants a bit better. I cut the pants to the correct length and then I used my elastic around Alice's boot to work out how tight I would like the elastic to be. I cut another piece of elastic to use as a stirrup going underneath the boot in order to really make sure that the pants don't ride up and to hopefully keep as much water out of going into the boot as possible. I then folded the cuff over and held it together using wonder clips, ready to sew it with a straight stitch on my sewing machine. At this point I tried to also include the stirrup elastic and sew that down at the same time so that the elastic was encased within the cuff. If I were to do this again, I would probably do this as 2 separate steps. I would probably hem it first and then sew the elastic on top of the hemline there because it was a little bit tricky to do both steps at the same time. Make sure to leave a gap in your casing so that you can thread your ankle elastic through. I also did a little stitch on the elastic at the very edge of the bottom of the pants just to tack it in place. I put my ankle elastic on a safety pin and threaded it through the casing. I clipped the other end of the elastic to the pants with a wonder clip to make sure that it doesn't disappear into the casing.
This broke and it's trapped.
Oh no! I think I'm going to buy myself a bodkin instead of using dodgy safety pins like this. But anyway, once I retrieved my safety pin out from the casing, I then sewed the elastic to itself using a zigzag stitch and then pushed it inside the casing and closed my casing over using a straight stitch and also closed the hole over where I had to unpick to get my safety pin out. This is how you put the stirrups on, and I do know that it is going to be a point that gets a lot of wear and tear, but I do think it's still worth having there in order to make sure that the pants are staying down and not riding up over their boot. It will keep more water out, and I can always unpick it and sew a new stirrup on if it does get a bit damaged. Next, we're moving on to the top of the overalls, so I'm cutting off the ribbons that I originally put on and changing up the top part a little bit just so that it fit Alice a little bit better, and then we'll be ready to hem the parts that go underneath her arms. I wanted to have a very small hem here, so as you can see I've just folded over twice, nice and narrow, and I'm going to sew a straight stitch right along the edge of that hem. I haven't hemmed the chest or the back at this point because I'm going to do the straps first. I wanted my straps to be about 3 centimeters wide or just over an inch, so I cut my fabric to be 8 centimeters wide and I folded it in half and sewed down one short edge and one long edge to make a tube. Then I turned it out the right way and top stitched along the 2 long edges and the closed edge of the tube. You'll need to make 2 of these straps and they'll be attached to the back of the overalls so that they can go over each shoulder. I folded the back of the overalls down twice, ready to hem it, and then I slid the 2 straps up into the hemline so that when I sewed the hemline down, it would sew the straps in as well. Then I folded up the overall straps and stitched a row along the very top of the overalls there so that the straps were pointing up and just to make the edge of that overalls look really neat. And I did the same on the front of the overalls. I folded it over twice to do a rolled hem, and I did 2 rows of stitching, one at the base of the hem and one at the top, just so that the front and back matched. The last thing we need to do is to attach some snaps so that we're able to take the overalls on and off. I attached the 2 snaps on the front of the overalls first, and then I tried the overalls on Alice to work out where I needed the matching snap on the strap to be so that they would fit on
Stuck
her.
on your toe? Is that better?
Comfy.
Good. I'm glad it's comfy. I don't want to poke you, my cheeky chew.
And nose.
Yeah, can't poke your nose.
And I want eye.
Yeah, no poke your eye.
Make sure to attach the snap on the correct side of your strap, otherwise there'll be a twist in the strap when you go to snap them together. So with the snaps now all in place, this is what the overalls look like, all complete, including the stirrups on the bottom, which I didn't have in the videos of when they were splashing in the creek.
So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed learning how I made these splash pants for my kids, and if you did enjoy this tutorial, I'd love for you to press the like button down below and subscribe to come back and see some of my future content. If you make splash pants like this, I'd love to see them. You can tag me on Instagram at mymummakes.marie, and if you would like me to share your project with our community here, then don't forget to tag it with Show My Sew. Today's Show My Sew was sent in by Simply Stitch, who sent in a picture of 2 dresses that she's made, one for a little baby and one for an older sibling, saying that it is lovely to have sisters so that you can twin, and I would agree. I love when I get to put my 2 girls in matching outfits too. So thank you for sending in that photo. They look really lovely, and if you would like one of your projects to be featured on the channel, then don't forget to tag Show My Sew on Instagram or Facebook when you share any of your projects. It could be from a pattern, something self-drafted, something from one of my patterns, or it could be something that you make to sell. I'd love to share that with my community here as well. So thanks again for watching this video. I hope that you have enjoyed it, and if you'd like to watch another of my videos after this, 2 will pop up at the end of this video. So until next time, go get creative, and I'll see you later.